Hello, Christine. It is lovely to be with you this morning for this chat about your upcoming retreat at Wellbeing from June 29th to July 2nd. Welcome and thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having this conversation, Salman.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about the retreat that you're running?
Sure. I am offering this retreat as a opportunity to explore nature connection. And so I think that all of us have things that can get in the way of just being. And to me, just being in nature is what it's all about. And so giving us an opportunity to step away from the loud and the busy and perhaps into some silence with nature. I think there's a sense of remembering what it's like to be connected to nature. We all do it inherently, but sometimes it's not easy to feel that in the day-to-day hustle and bustle of life. And so this is just an opportunity to explore through guided walks, through nature connection experiences, through meditation, and even some meditation in motion out at Wellbeing. And I would tell you that the land that the Wellbeing Retreat Center sits on and is part of, there is nothing like it. And it just breeds this sense of connection and exploration, which is why I love offering this opportunity there.
Yeah, and you've called the retreat Renew, Recharge, and Reconnect with Nature. And it feels like there's different components to that.
Sure, yeah, because I think renewing has a sense of stepping back into something, so renewing your relationship. I think of a relationship with nature as very uh, reciprocal, right? We benefit a lot from what nature has to offer us, but we also have an awful lot that we can offer back. And so just renewing that relationship, reconnecting, I think of us as part of the web of nature, not separate from it, not above it. And so reconnecting, I have that image of the web, reconnecting in that way to the little ants and the other beings and the rabbits that run through, like all of those things. So I think there's a lot of different ways that you can think about it, but all of it is just about being, being in nature as opposed to, I love trying to get to a destination, doing something challenging, going on a hard hike to get somewhere beautiful and iconic. But this is a little bit different from that. It's just about being out there, slowing down, sort of in a very intentional way to see what we walk by every day and see what perhaps that might have to offer us.
Yeah, I love what you say about being and then in nature. And I just wonder if you feel that, or some of the reasons why nature is such a conducive ground to sort of bring forward our being.
It's alive. It's alive and it's present. And I like to say that nature can only exist in the present moment, as we try to find anchors that connect us. And for some people, that might be the breath. For me, it's that nature connection and really going through that in an embodied way.
Mhm.
So, one of the things I invite people to do and will invite people to do on this retreat is to sort of drop all the labels and stories
Mhm.
that we have, even around nature, and just connect to it using as simply as using the five primary senses. Reach out and touch something and let that connect you to that being. Hear it, smell it, feel it. And that just drops us, from that busy mind that we all have and can be a conduit into an embodied sense, sitting on the earth and feeling that the earth is supporting us without us having to do anything, to ask for that support. It's remarkable when you can sort of pause and really connect to what that's like.
Yeah, it just reminds me of the ANFT trail that you have at Wellbeing. And I might say for people who may be watching this who are unaware that the Wellbeing Retreat Center has 160 acres of land, and there are several trails on that land now. And you've been a big part of that, and also getting a certified ANFT trail here. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm a certified nature and forest therapy guide. I'm also a certified trainer, training other guides. And that's about, being able to not only connect to nature, connect with nature yourself, but also be able to bring people with you on that journey and offer it out to others. And so, those guided experiences are really powerful because you've got someone who's able to be there to hold that container. It can be hard for us to slow down in the way that we might want to on our own. And so it's interesting to do that with a guide who's offering different ways that you can connect with nature. But there isn't a guide everywhere. And as I said, well-being, the land, anywhere you go on the land, it just exudes this sense of aliveness and opportunity for connection. And so the trails are all magical, but there is one in particular that is a certified Association of Nature and Forest Therapy trail. And what that means is that it's a self-guided experience so that people can have this sort of opportunity to connect in this way. And I'll share a little bit about what that means, but without a guide being present. So anyone who comes onto the land for any kind of retreat can explore these invitations to connect with nature in a nature and forest therapy way. And I should probably back up since we're using that language and share with you what that means, because that can be a little bit confusing for folks. I am not a therapist. It is not about what I have to offer anyone. I am a guide. And so we say that nature is the therapist and the guide opens the door to the partnership through the senses. And so, it's based around this idea of forest bathing, which is that just by being out in nature and breathing that air, you're benefiting your mind, body, and spirit. And there, you can measure it in all kinds of ways. I don't. I just simply believe it. And I know it to be true. And I watch it to be true for others. But it really is just about, being able to just be, to follow the sounds, to follow the smells, to connect with a tree, those kinds of really simple things. And so on that self-guided trail, you can do those kinds of things. There's a pamphlet that you can follow along the way. And then, on guided experiences, the same kinds of things happen as I connect with nature and see what to offer whoever's walking with me.
Yeah, I remember when I was here when you were leading a trail building weekend, and I remember you saying that something you really loved about the opportunity for you to offer that here was that you could truly listen to the land and how the trail wanted to be directed. I thought that was quite a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I do think, I build trails in other places. That's one of the things that I love to do, to give people ways to get into and experience nature. But there is something so very different about being able to just sit and listen, and rather than be constrained by what the land is doing from a topography standpoint, or what the other constraints might be of where people want you to build it. In the case on Wellbeing's land, I just sat and listened and flagged out a line and looked at where that might go, and then let it be for a while and tried to tune in to what was going on with nature on those magical hillsides to see where perhaps it wanted the trail to go, or where it would be least impactful. And so it really spoke to me, because that's not the average way of building a trail, for sure, in other places. But again, it's just another example of how alive I think nature is at at well-being and how loudly it speaks if we're willing to listen. And part of that is the way it's been cultivated, right? I think a lot about the energy of things. And I think that others who have come on retreat there, others who have come to offer something to the land, everyone leaves something behind, their own energy, which just feeds everyone else who comes behind them. So it's pretty neat.
It feels really lovely what you're talking about, the qualities of being in nature and also listening to nature. And it feels like, you know, for when we can get consumed with our thoughts and thinking, and distracted from that, it feels like nature gives us a really beautiful way in to kind of excite our senses.
It does, and it's always there, just sort of tapping us on the shoulder. And often, because there's nothing different about a moment where you connect versus a moment you disconnect in terms of what nature is doing. It's just doing it,
Sure.
Right? It's not doing it because we ask it to. And that's something that's pretty cool. It just takes us being willing to sort of tune into that, and see what we find. And, that's part of this practice of being in nature. And again, not trying to get somewhere or do something. And I like to give people different ways of experiencing that. So, the forest bathing is one way to experience that. I feel like my meditation practice is more powerful when I'm doing that outside personally, where I'm sitting for 20 minutes, perhaps even with my eyes open, watching the life that's going on around me. It can be the same place every day, but it looks very different, right? And any opportunity to tune into the senses is an opportunity to turn inward as opposed to outward. But one of the other things that I also will offer as part of the retreat is Tai Chi and Qigong practice. And that's a sort of energy-based practice that I think also is enhanced by being outside, feeling the air move around you, not just the energy move within you. So that's just another piece of how I sort of weave all of these things together.
Yeah, and I think some of the principles of Tai Chi is to be grounded to the earth or to raise to the heavens. So I could really see how it would be beneficial doing that outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all it's a Chinese art that is based around nature, based around interconnection, based around, all of most of the Qigongs and things that I offer have a connection to an animal name or a nature being. And that's just because that system is built that way, not because I've changed anything.
Yeah, great. How, yeah, the question I really would love to ask is, how did you get into all of this, or what's your journey been like in nature? Because I know a lot of people can appreciate nature, and it's, it can calm you down walking in the forest or walking by the sea, but it feels like you have a commitment that's really quite deep, with nature, and is such a significant component of your time and your energy. How did all of that come into being?
Well, I would say it started early. The nature button was hit early as I was a kid. I was always outside, always exploring, was happier outside than inside. So I think part of that is just innate. But I would say that over time, my work and my free time was spent in ways that were connected to nature. But my experience with my own nature connection was also challenged. And I think that's a little bit about how I'm brought to where I am now with it, which is that, when you're responsible for managing land or for trying to protect it from impacts that happen, it can get challenging to see it for what it is. And I would say that I was challenged in my own personal nature connection for a while. And that's how I found the association of nature and forest therapy, and wanted to see what that was all about and see if that could help me deepen my own connection. And I came out of that not only deepening my own connection, but then wanting to share it to everyone, wanted to train guides to lead others, wanted to certify nature and forest therapy trials. and guide as many people as I could. And so part of my level of connection, I think, is that journey of just innate connection, being challenged by that, feeling disconnected, and then finding my own way back to that and making it a very conscious part of my everyday. And so, a lot of people are connected with nature, but we still tend to treat it as separate. We still tend to treat it as outside of ourselves. And I think my practice has been to bring it in, to honor that it's all part of, we are part of it. It is part of us. And there really is no true disconnection or difference between the two. One of the ways that I invite people to think about that is the breath, right? So we breathe every day. How often do we actually connect to the fact that we're breathing? But that inhale, you're inhaling what has been given from nature. And as you exhale, you're nourishing things back out that nature can receive. And so just by breathing, you're connected, but we don't often see it that way. And so, this is not about people seeing it the way I do at all. It's simply about giving people sort of that window to see what they see what they find as their own personal connection to it. But it is interesting to think about my own journey with this and how much nature has supported me, right? I often bring things to the land. I can't bring them anywhere else. I bring it to the land. I feel like the earth is alive and is something that can receive whatever we need it to carry with us or for us. And so, again, all of those ways of existing, I think, bring me to a place where I might be a little bit more connected or seem a little bit more connected or a little bit more focused on that relationship than others. And that reciprocal nature too is really important to me. When you connect with something, you care about it. When you care about it, you will serve to protect it. And I think there's nothing worth our protection more than human life and the more than human life, which is what I call nature. And so that connection is really important to that reciprocal protection and honoring of the value of that life.
Oh, I feel deeply inspired listening to you, Christine. It just feels like such a beautiful and heartfelt devotion and connection that you have with nature. And yeah, I truly hope that people who may get the chance to listen to this and who also have an interest might explore further your offering. And so if people want to find out more information, you have information on the Wellbeing website that explains more about the retreat and the offering. And just to conclude, the types of people that you've had on your retreats, it seems like all levels of experience or relationship with nature is completely welcome. There isn't a kind of a mold of who needs to be applying.
No, and I would say that at base, the practice of nature and forest therapy is about the fact that all is welcome. Whatever is happening in the moment is welcome. And that is the same is true about who would feel inspired, feel drawn to come on a retreat and try it out. Everything is invitational. So people can, whatever your level of comfort with the kinds of things I will offer, it's all invitational. Just to explore and see again. So no level of experience needed, no personal connection with nature is required. Just the openness to see what you find if you explore that a little bit. And I would love for anyone who might have an interest to join me at the retreat, to check out more on my website, to walk with me someday. All of those things would be welcome.
Yeah. Christine, on behalf of Wellbeing, thank you so much for your time this morning to come and share what is a really beautiful journey with and in nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Samhain. I enjoyed this conversation with you.